Today, we're going to be detectives. We're diving into a pretty fascinating case where the victim is an image, a perfect signal that's been corrupted somehow. The crime scene? It's a blurry, noisy mess. And our job is to sift through the evidence and uncover the truth that's buried underneath all that chaos.
Okay, so take a look at this. On the left, you've got an image that's been hit with what's called salt and pepper noise, just a mess of black and white dots. And on the right, that's the pristine original. So the big question, the one that drives this whole field, is how is it even possible to mathematically undo that kind of damage? How do you get from that noisy mess back to the original with such clarity? It honestly looks like magic, but I promise you it's all science.
So, to crack this case, we've got a roadmap. First, we'll define what image restoration even is. Then, we'll investigate our first suspects in what I like to call a tale of two filters. After that, we'll uncover a really tricky trade-off, and then tackle the ultimate cold case, the blind problem. We'll look at the strategies for dealing with the unknown, and finally, we'll get a little philosophical and talk about the reality of perfection in this line of work. All right, let's start by properly analyzing the evidence. What exactly is the problem we're trying to solve here? You know, at its core, image restoration is all about reversing a physical process. Something real happened to our original picture. Maybe it went through a faulty camera sensor, or the photographer's hand was shaky, or it was transmitted over a noisy line. Our job isn't to make a pretty picture. It's to scientifically model what went wrong and then, step by step, mathematically undo it. And this is basically the crime mapped out in an equation. We start with our perfect original image, F. Then, two bad things happen to it. First, a degradation, H, you can think of this like motion blur, and then some random noise gets added on top. The result of all that is G, the corrupted image we actually get to see. Our entire mission is to create and estimate F hat that gets us as close to that original lost truth as we possibly can. And here's our rogues gallery, the usual suspects behind the corruption. You've got additive noise, which often comes from things like heat in a camera's electronics. Then there's multiplicative noise, which gets worse the brighter the image is. And finally, impulse noise, our old friend salt and pepper, those random black and white pixels from something like a transmission error. Each of these culprits needs a totally different strategy to be dealt with. Okay, now that we know who we're up against, we can bring in our first investigative tools, filters. Let's check out a couple of these suspects and see how they try to clean up the data. So, our first attempt is what we call the average filter. And it's pretty naive. The idea sounds simple enough. Just average a pixel's value with its neighbors to kind of smooth out the noise. But look what happens with those extreme black and white dots. It just smears them into these ugly gray blobs and completely wipes out the sharp details of the face. Yeah, this detective is not up to the task. But now, here comes a much smarter detective, the median filter. This is brilliant. Instead of averaging, it looks at a pixel and its neighbors. It sorts all their brightness values, from lowest to highest, and it just picks the one in the middle. You see that crazy outlier, that 255? The filter just throws it out. The value it picks, 14, is a much truer representation of what's going on, and it keeps the edge sharp instead of blurring it. It's just a fantastic statistical way of rejecting outliers. So, we found a better tool. Case closed, right? Ha! Not so fast. The plot is about to thicken, because in image restoration, every single choice you make comes with a compromise. And this right here is the fundamental trade-off we are always fighting. If we use a really small filter window, say 3 by 3 pixels, we get to keep a lot of the fine detail, but we don't get rid of much noise. But if we go big with like a 7 by 7 window, we do a great job on the noise, but we start blurring the image and losing all those critical sharp edges. The whole game is finding that perfect sweet spot in between. And if you thought that was complicated, it gets even trickier with color. See, you can't just apply a median filter to a color image directly. Why not? Because a color pixel is 3 values, red, green, and blue. And trying to sort colors just doesn't make any mathematical sense. You'd completely mess up the color balance. So the only way to do it right is to split the image into 3 separate pictures, one for red, one for green, one for blue, filter each of them as a grayscale image, and then merge them all back together. So up to this point, we've kind of assumed we know what kind of noise or blur we're fighting. But now we're heading into the really hard part of the investigation, the cold case. This is the question that keeps digital detectives up at night. All the techniques we've talked about rely on knowing who the enemy is. But what if the camera shake wasn't recorded? What if the atmospheric distortion is totally random? What happens when the culprit leaves no clues behind at all?
This is what's known as the two unknown problem, or officially, blind deconvolution, and this is where things get incredibly difficult. We don't just have to figure out the original image, we also have to figure out the exact degradation process that messed it up in the first place. We're solving for two unknowns at the same time, with only one piece of evidence, the blurry picture. It's a huge challenge.
Now, for a case this hard, you can't just send in any old detective. You need a specialist, and luckily we have a whole team of algorithms to choose from, each with its own strategy for tackling the unknown. All right, let's look at the lineup. You've got your iterative method, which is super fast, but it can be really unstable. The conjugate gradient method is much more robust against noise, but it has one major weakness. Then you have something like simulated annealing, which can actually guarantee it finds the right answer, but my gosh, is it slow. Each one is a strategic choice, a balance between its key feature and a pretty significant risk. So let's talk about that weakness in the conjugate gradient method. It's called the local minima trap. Okay, imagine you're a hiker on a foggy mountain range, and your goal is to find the absolute lowest point, the deepest valley. If your only rule is always walk downhill, you're going to get stuck in the very first little dip you find, a local minimum. That's the conjugate gradient. But simulated annealing, that's a smarter hiker. It can occasionally decide to take a random step uphill, which allows it to get out of those little traps and keep searching for the true lowest point, the global minimum, which is our perfectly restored image. So we've explored the crime, the tools, the strategies for even the toughest cases. But this brings us to one final and honestly pretty profound question. After all this work, how do we even know if we've actually found the truth? Well, in a lab setting, we have a way to keep score. First, we can measure the blurred signal-to-noise ratio, or BSNR. This basically tells us how bad the corruption is, how difficult is the case. Then, after we run our restoration, we can measure the improvement in signal-to-noise ratio, or ISNR. This tells us how much better we made it. It's a nice, clean mathematical score of how well our detective did. But here is the final twist in our story. That performance score, our measure of success, it has a fatal flaw. It only works if we have the original perfect image to compare our result against. This is what we call the God view constraint. In a lab, sure, we have the original. But out in the real world, whether you're restoring a photo from the Hubble telescope or trying to clean up a security camera feed, the original truth is gone. It's unknown. We have absolutely nothing to compare our result against. And that leaves us with one last, kind of mind-bending question. Out in the field, when we restore a signal and we pull a clear image out of all that noise, we're creating what is the most mathematically probable version of the truth. But if the original is lost forever, and we can never really check our work against it, how real is that beautiful, clean image that we just created? It's something to think about.